Yo, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up?
What's up, Stu?
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Fam.
Let's talk.
What's up, family?
What's up with you?
Chilling. You having a good week? How's the week? How's the week going?
The week is well. I'm tired.
Cool.
However, I'm managing well.
Okay, managing well. Is it good well? Good well?
It's a good well.
Good well.
As long as you can manage it, right?
Facts.
So,
That's real.
yeah.
That's real. Same. This week has actually been these last few months have been a crazy few months for me behind the scenes. Just with a lot of work. Grinding, trying to take care of myself and not let it overwhelm me, and was able to get some real good wins over these last 2 months. I was able to get some really good wins, and so I'm good in this present moment. I'm trying to find a way to like really celebrate those wins because I'm not necessarily good at that. So I got to figure out a way. And we in National Men's Health Month.
Right.
You know, I believe like, you know, finding the ways to celebrate our wins is like so critical because I feel like so many dudes ain't, you know, like whether they youngins or OGs, like we're not really good at like slowing down to celebrate like wins in our life, even if they're just like small wins.
Right.
Like, you know.
What do you think that comes from, though?
Oh, I could talk about me. I could talk about what mine comes from.
Okay.
So I was in a therapy session, and one of the things, crazy thing, okay, so just signed a second book deal. And you would think that, like, after the news come, like, it would be, like, intensely celebrated. Like, I'm talking about, like, you would think, like, I would be, like, immensely happy. But the fact is that, like, after that news came, after all the work was done, because it was a lot of hard work for a year and a half, you know, and things like that, after the win actually happened and got the news, that things was coming through. I went through like 3 or 4 days really of intense depression. I'm talking about like intense depression where I was trying to figure out like, why was I having so much anxiety about like good news? And why was I having so much anxiety about, you know, the good things that would happen to me? And so we were processing that during therapy. And my therapist said something that like, and we've been together now 11 months every week or every other week, given like holidays, travel, things like that. And as we've been kind of processing like the way I grew up, you know, as a young kid, let's just keep it 100. Like where I'm from, we experienced death at like a very early age. Where that's like the dying of like, you know, a parent or a grandparent or a friend. And, you know, whether that death be like natural or unnatural, you experience that death. And so one of the kind of escaping death that I had, you know, really car accident that almost took my life when I was a senior and getting shot at, you know, as a youngin', as an 11th grader. So
those experiences prevent you from celebrating wins now in your life?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, in for a long time.
For a long time.
Just in life, in some sense, because, you know, one of the things they've been helping me process is that, like, when you experience death that early and, like, you experience escaping death that early, you'll never really conceive that you would actually survive the good news of your life. So you get into a process where you're always, like, escaping and you're always, like, running. And so there's never been a time in my life in which I feel like I've actually slowed down enough to stop running, you know, and slow down enough to like actually enjoy the good things of life. And so that depression was like a trauma response, was like a coping mechanism, you know, or, you know, me almost not necessarily like, because the coping mechanism really was like staying home, you know, not being around people, getting off social media, not posting, you know, things like that. So the coping mechanism was like being by myself, isolation. The immediate response was like a deep like sadness because like almost like survivor's guilt or survivor's remorse that, you know, good things happen to me while, you know, a friend may have not survived that, or they won't be able to celebrate it with me, or they won't be able to experience something like that in their life. And it's a lot of, based on where I grew up, like it's a lot of like, we a lot of black dudes that I grew up with, we carry a lot of like survivor's guilt. And that affects our life, even at, you know, I'm 31 now, and that happened when I was 16, 17, 18. And, yeah, so I'm terrible at it.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that it's November, and some people call it Movember, whereas men's.
Okay, say Movember. Give me more. Give me more. What does that mean?
It's just pretty much where men are taking the initiative. Instead of November, you put an M in front of it for men.
Okay.
Like November.
Okay, Movember. I like
health,
it.
Men's.
It's kind of cheesy, but it's cool.
I mean, it may be cheap, but some men grow their beards out.
No shave November. I like that.
Yeah. So all of that is associated with what we are, being aware of for November in general. But I think for me, it just seems like the younger generation, our millennials, our Gen Zs, right? Especially for young black men. I don't know any other race, right?
Thanks.
It just seems like it appears that you all, and I'm not saying you're not, that you may be experiencing life harder, it seems, or you're experiencing life harder, or managing life is different for our now younger generation than when it was for me, because I got a son almost your age, so it's than people my age and my parents. So the way that our younger generation is managing life is just totally different. Mm-hmm. And so, I hear people say, well, they're going through things much more different than what I may have went through, our generation went through. Do you feel the same? Like, I understand we have social media, so, that's a different factor for sure. Mm-hmm. But do you feel that your generation and younger, things are just do you feel it's harder, or it's just the way that the previous generations, the way that they were taught or conditioned to handle life, they were taught different than the way you guys were?
That's actually a great question. See, I don't know if I think of it that it's like harder because, there's kind of a cardinal sin for me to be like, hey, bro, like what my granddaddy went through is harder than, like I'm living harder than what my daddy or my granddaddy went through, to live in like a racist country, not even like a racist country, to live in a racist country that's very much, exploitive of black women, children, and men, and set up the system in a way to like, rob us of our dignity and rob us of our power. Like I would never say like, yo, like we got it harder than them just because, maybe they had it harder and they, was able to process less because, they always had to like be on the move and things like that. But I will say, like, there is a sense where things are harder, and we just got to keep it 100 about that. Like, they didn't have social media. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't necessarily know what's like going on in Israel or Gaza. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't necessarily know what's going on in like New York or Philadelphia, or news would travel slower. They wouldn't necessarily have to navigate through like, who do we listen to? You're on TikTok, and I love TikTok, and sadly, many politicians today are trying to like ban it because, it's a revolutionary device. When you give people a voice and you allow them to wrestle with what they're wrestling with and remain curious and ask questions and develop solidarity and relationships with each other, that becomes a very dangerous thing to the status quo because it challenges like your vantage point in the world. Many times those people in power, whether you're talking about patriarchy or white supremacy or sexism, anybody who empower capitalism, anybody who empower, they only see the world from their vantage point. Mm-hmm. And so I think that is one of the reasons why it's harder, because we're forcing people as young people to say like, yo, you're not the only vantage point that go through things. Our vantage point is real and you got to listen to us. Challenging thing as well is this. I believe we're way more sensitive than the generations that come before us. Not in a bad way. I'm talking about sensitive to what I feel and being willing to communicate it. Like,
do you feel that you are more sensitive, or is this generation just more aware and they're open to share what they feel?
That's what I mean. Okay. Like, we're sensitive, like a sensitivity to a thing. So I'm sensitive to what you're going through today, or I'm aware of it. Okay. So because I'm more aware of the things that hurt us collectively and hurt me individually, and because it taps into a part of my humanity that wants to always move the world forward, or move my soul forward, or move my life forward, then I'm willing to do what it takes to, work on that. Like, I don't think my pops asked the same questions that I asked of my son with myself. I just don't think that's the case, and that's not to take anything away from him, or maybe he did ask the question and like, we wasn't able to, he wasn't able to like really wrestle with that question or wrestle with it together. I mean, I never apologized to me as a youngin'.
And I think let's just be fair though. I think because I can speak about my dad, maybe not being able or maybe not asking certain questions, but I will say this, because they were busy trying to make sure they protect. Provide. Mm-hmm. And so that was that culture at that time, right? So you think about your grandfather and your great-grandfather mm-hmm. because of everything that they had been through. So for their mind, they were conditioned to do what? Take care of the family, right? Just to provide for the family.
I get it, but we doing the same thing. I'm providing for my fam. I'm like the thing, and I think that's one of the things, that one of the rubs that like young folk like, that we feeling, that ain't no excuse to be terrible. That ain't no excuse to like, run. I get it, but the same type of provisions that we're having to make for our family right now is the same type of providing they had to do. We get up every day, and I'm not saying that like, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing.
Right.
It's just that like maybe they didn't have it's no excuse for it, but maybe they just didn't have the tools or the space to do
Let's
it.
just be honest.
Yeah.
Like, right. So we're still talking about Men's Health Month. Mm-hmm. So where today, and it's still a stigma, right? When we think about black men going to therapy, mm-hmm. right? There's still a stigma there, but more black men are going to therapy.
Facts.
Let's be today.
Of all ages.
Right, of all ages.
Yeah.
Right. But I remember growing up, if you said that in my house or just in church or whatever, of course, that is not what my dad is thinking about, mm-hmm. right? Because that's not the way that they were conditioned, right? That's not the way that they were raised. We know in the black community, like when we think about mental health, you go pray that away.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you're going to pray away a mental illness, right? Mm-hmm. However, they will tell us to go pray that away. Today, I will encourage my children to go and seek help. But I'm not just going to tell them to go. Even as I'm an adult and they're adults, I want to make sure that they go, right? So I'm going to parent them until the day that they die or the day I die, mm-hmm. right? And I have a young black man, adult, as a child, right? So for me, when I think about Men's Health Awareness Month, I'm thinking about all black men. Let me just be honest. My father, my son, my nephews, mm-hmm. cousins, and everybody, right? So I'm thinking of just making sure to communicate to them the importance of prioritizing their physical and their mental health, mm-hmm. right? Their holistically, how are you doing? The question I have for you, Stu, right, is I know you mentioned like you have some wins, but it's hard for you to celebrate those wins. How do you feel that impacts your wife? Right? Because, mm-hmm. As a woman, and I've mm-hmm. been a wife, you're there to, we maybe wake up first, go to bed last because we're praying over home and all these different things. But then she's right there along with you, while you are aiming for the win, and then you mm-hmm. get the win, she's probably celebrating it. Mm-hmm. But then, you're not. How do you feel, that affects her, or do you feel it affects her at all?
I think it does. Mm-hmm. I would imagine that like whatever I go through does affect Jazz in some capacity. Mm-hmm. Like even when we did get this win, like the win is as much hers as it is mine. Mm-hmm. And so like, it's almost like when you can't carry the load yourself, I hope you have, when I say you, I'm speaking generally speaking, like I hope you have people who can carry it for you. Mm-hmm. So like one of the things that my wife is very good at, and I want to be careful about this statement, because I know how this statement could land in a time where like, black women are seen to be the emotional work mule of black men, but I really believe that like, like when we have a great relationship with one another, that like you can really like carry me in ways that I can't like carry myself. Mm. I'm not dependent on her to like do that for me because I don't think that's fair. But I do think like what's the demand of love, of a partner with another partner that has a mental health disorder. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I don't know how well I do at that, that like I'm so concerned about the next thing that like, you know, we don't really get a chance to like really, you know, slow down to do this thing. And we're both 31, and you know, we've been married 10 years now. So it's like, you know, at year 10, you start to reevaluate like who you are individually and who you are collectively. Mm-hmm. And this past year was one of those reevaluation periods where it's like, you know, both of us are ascending our careers. We have 2 children. You know, we 10 years in this thing. Like, you know, it was bumpy. You know, it was real bumpy. It was like real bumpy because it's like sometimes I'm not the best at like, you know, I'm very rash as a human being because I'm a creative. You know, it's just kind of the way I've lived my life. And so sometimes I don't like think through things. And yet, like, I am also very sensitive to what my wife goes through as a dude. So whether it's like, you know, if think about pregnancy, if, you know, caring for her mind and caring for her body, you know, and post-pregnancy, like thinking about how black women have to fall in love with their body over and over again, you know, and trying to really think about how to care for my wife as a black woman, as a black man. And I'll tell you what really changed me for real, though. So I think it affects her, but I'll tell you what changed me about this is a class I took at Emory University in my graduate work. I was taking a class, Black Literature from 1900 to Present. And my thesis advisor is Dr. Michelle Wright, who's a gay black woman, feminist at Emory. She's one of the leads in the English department. So I was a divinity school student and taking her class. And one of the things we had to do was every Friday we did an independent study where in order for me to get the class up to graduate level, because it was an undergrad class, we had to go 2 hours after class every Friday, or 2 hours every Friday to read critical essays on literature and things like that. One of the essays that we read was on W.B. Du Bois, the use of the black woman in W.B. Du Bois' text and the souls of black folk. Then we looked at James Baldwin. Then we looked at Richard Wright's Native Son, the use of the black woman in Native Son. And one of the things that began to like reveal itself is that a lot of black men only see black women as like either like stepping stones or they see them as like erratic and chaotic. You know, they kind of take away their agency and their autonomy, and they only are able to be who they are as they relate to us. And so as I began to like change and it began to represent like catalytic moments in my own life as a black man and my own kind of thinking and how my thinking, you know, has continued to evolve in the direction of love and care. You know, if you love a person, you that love should be embodied in caring for who they are as they are in their reality, not the reality I project on them. So what does all this have to do with right now? It's like, I can't say that like me struggling with celebration doesn't affect her at all, because I actually never have asked her that question. You know, so maybe now that's the question I should ask her and things like that. But then it also does make me sensitive to like, okay, let me also think about, you know, her in my own struggles. I've been thinking about this for so long as a dude. I want to be good to her. As much as I want to be good to myself, I want to be good to her. I want to be good to every black woman. I want to be good to every black person, whoever they are, LGBTQ, whoever, you know, whether they're here, there, everywhere. I want to be good to them. And therefore that means, you know, me allowing myself to question my relation to them and letting them speak on themselves while also not losing anything of who I am.
So why do you think prioritizing for black men, why is that so important to prioritize their physical and mental health, right?
Our time's so short. Our time's so short. It's short here. Like, you think about it. The margin of our life is minuscule. It's short. And like, I have a friend who died at 47. 31. I'm 31. That ain't that long. And one of the things that break my heart the most about my dog is, and this is one of my greatest regrets in life, is as I got older, I was able to be better to him as a friend, and I didn't give either of us a chance.
So you feel that's your reason? You're saying that's your reason why you feel it's important to prioritize? No, if that's your reason, that's your reason. I'm just asking.
Yeah, because it's short here.
Right, it's short.
And it's short, and we, why live this life in a way that feels like dying every day. It's a depressing way to live. I've lived that way.
So when you take care of yourself, right, so that helps to like boost the quality of your life.
Yeah.
Right, when you think about it, right? So I think that for me, when I'm thinking about maintaining health, whether it's physical, mental, or whatever, right, how it helps to, because I hear you saying like, because your time here is short, and that's the reason why we should make sure, especially for Black men, for sure, to make a focus to take care of your physical and your mental, right? What are some other ways, though? What other things? Like, it boosts your quality of life. So it helps you.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, of course, those things are, I'll get into that. But the reason why I said that is because I talk to a lot of Black men and we don't think about that. We don't think about mortality. We don't think about that. Like, we legit, many of us think we are invincible.
So what do Black men, young Black men, think about then? What do you feel they think about?
I can only speak for myself as a young Black man and the Black men that I know.
Right,
as far as
the
like,
ones you talk to.
Like what we think about when it comes to health.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're not really thinking about it because a lot of us, feel, we feel we're invincible in some regard. Mm-hmm. So, but you also got to think about my circle too. So I'm a football player. So like a lot of the young Black men that I'm in relationship with are athletes. And
athletes take care of themselves, right?
No, we don't take care of ourselves, bro. Come on. We do not take care of ourselves. We're athletic. We're athletic. We're in shape. We're big. We're strong. We're fast. But like when you're talking about taking care of yourself, there's a difference between like physical, like taking care of yourself and like living optimally healthy. Uh-huh. And so we ain't thinking about like living optimally healthy because that's not like a thing that we grow up with. You think about like, taking care of yourself is seen as like just get out there and run, go lift some weights and things like that. It's only like physical. It's only like, get on the field, do your thing, go get in the gym, et cetera, go on a walk. But like taking care of ourselves, it's also about like nutrition. Like my brother DePaul, my oldest brother, I've been so proud of him. I was in a wedding the other week. And my brother, he's a jokey dude. He's a funny guy, an amazing dude. He's much older than me. And I walk up to him and I was like, man, bro, like, you really been like, I see you, bro. Like you look good. Like the way my granddaddy would say, like, you look good. And he really did. Like my brother, he told me, I said, how much you lost? He's lost like 30 pounds, 30, 40 pounds. And I could see it in his face and I could see it in his smile. And I think like, that didn't happen just because he was like, yo, let me go walk. Like being well is like, nutrition and things like that. But I just don't think we think about like optimal health. So like, I'm talking about like when you go to the doctor and they draw your blood, what does that say? Mm-hmm. Not what you look like on the outside. I talking with one of my teammates, Cody, about this. Like we was talking about a lot of our teammates at Clemson. We lose a lot of us and teammates at Clemson. Once we get done with football, we take on like 30, 40 pounds. Like I was 220 in 2020. Like I was 220. I'm 180 right now.
Well, let's be fair. A lot of people gained weight in
exactly.
2020. So
exactly.
Let's just be
exactly. But there's a thing about athletes. There's this thing about athletes. This is not like body shaming, but there's a thing that we go through that is connected between men who are athletes.
Okay, because women athletes, we still,
Yeah, men athletes. But we talking about men. So
I know. I'm just asking.
Yeah. So men athletes. If you talk to football players, it's just real. Is that one of the things we go through is the shame that we carry because of our body after like using it so many years and our physical health is very much tied to our emotional idea of ourselves. And a lot of times because so many years we were on this like rat race to look as good as we could, to be as fit as we could, and we're not really taking care of ourselves. We just getting to where we can like function and play. By the time we leave, we won't have any way to think about like, yo, bro, like when it comes time to draw your blood, like what's happening on the inside, so that you can just be as healthy as you possibly can. And nothing to necessarily be afraid of, but to like say like, yo, let's like figure out how we can be as best we can to ourselves and one another. And that means like, yo, like maybe I don't drink like 10 times this week. maybe I drink like 3 times. You know, like small wins, bro. Like maybe instead of, you know, because like with my bro, you know, he had to start small, and my brother just like me. We like, hey, bro, like if we gonna do it, we gotta go all in. And I'm like, nah, that's not how it works, bro. You like, you have an age where your metabolism done slowed way down. You ain't running 4-4 no more on the football field. You know, let's take some small wins, and you start just like walking and things like that. And you begin to realize that you feel better about yourself and within yourself. But I think like a lot of dudes, we have no real language for like what does it mean to be optimally well. So like we think being well is just physically feeling better.
So what was your turnaround point? Because you mentioned that you were at your highest in 2020.
Yeah.
And then I know you started running, you're cycling and stuff.
Yeah.
So what was your turning point? Was it just for definitely for your overall? Did you consider your family in there too? Like wanting to live long? No? Okay.
Nah, it wasn't even that. Like it wasn't initially that. You know, it did become that.
Okay.
Because like now it's been like 3 years, and I've been, you know, thankfully, you know, been able to like maintain my health in some regard. It really was like, man, give yourself a chance to like do something you haven't done really before.
Okay.
So it was like, you know, because really the culprit was I got COVID in 2020. And I had lost like 12 pounds with COVID. And the main thing was like, you know, okay, I ain't gonna share that, but the main thing was like I just wasn't being well to myself. I wasn't being good to Dante in some serious ways. You know, I ain't talking about like I'm out here like slang or whatever. I ain't being reckless, but I just was not being good to me. And I began to think about like, you know, my friends. I did begin to think about like my family and things like that. Like what do I want my son, you know, what do I want my son to have? And my son, man, Asa has changed a lot for me, you know, when it comes to like, you know, what do I want my son to say about his daddy when he gets older? Like, I have to create things to say about my daddy, to reconstruct a childhood I never truly had. I want him to say things about his daddy that are actually true.
So I think and I hear you. So I think like, so it's interesting, like I speak for myself, for me as a woman, I remember when I started on really thinking about health and wellness, it was because I wanted to live, period, right? So I wanted to live, but not just for myself, but for, you know, my children. But I also wanted to see my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. So, you know, it's inevitable. Death is inevitable, right? So we all will die. However, I just didn't want to be because I did not take care of me.
Exactly.
Because I didn't take care of my physical health, my mental health, right? So do men think that way? Young men, because I'm talking, do you think that way, Stu? Let's make this about you.
Yeah, I do, because like I really do, like, you know, I really do think about taking care of myself. Okay. Like every day I'm up and I'm running. I'm doing something to keep myself moving. I'm going to therapy. One thing I am working on though is my wellness check. You know, just to get back into my wellness check, because like, you know, for a few years there, I was doing a wellness check every year on my birthday. And then in 2020, 21, 22, when a lot of things happened in my life, and, you know, it just was horrible. Things that happened in my life that kind of threw off my, like, you know, I just didn't want to go back into the doctor anymore. Right. You know, so it was like a traumatizing space. I'm still trying to develop that type of courage to do that. So that's one of the things me and my therapist been working on right now, is we've moved into a new, into the form of therapy called EMDR, where it's kind of like reliving the trauma. And I think for me, it's like, yeah, I am thinking about that. Like it ain't even about looks. Like it's like, oh, absolutely, man, I want to be the best version of myself that I can, because I deserve to be the best version of myself that I can give. Yeah. And like many of us, we haven't been given a chance to do that. And I think a lot of times it's been shaming. Like who's shaming? You said I think collectively we shame one another about our bodies. And I don't like it. I really don't like it. I like
So do you feel that men get shamed?
Oh,
about
100.
their bodies?
Oh, of course. All of us get shamed. We
know women. Let me be honest. We know women do.
Yeah, we all get shamed about our bodies, whether
Okay.
we're like, one doesn't take off your shirt or whatever because there's a part of a construct in which like you're judged by like whether you can or cannot. Like men, the same way that women try and hide their body or possibly hide their body. I'm not a woman, but I'm sure as a coping mechanism, one may try and hide their body from others or whatnot. Men go through that same thing. I go through it like I'm fit. Like, and it's like, I look at the mirror, I walk by the mirror, look at myself, make sure like this and that, and just checking out myself and things like that. Even making sure like, it's obsessive. And I think so much of the obsessive desire to look a certain type of way is bent on like the shame that we feel to be fully ourselves at the stage that we are in this present moment. And it's like, you don't have to be all the way there yet. You don't have to be running 6-minute miles. You don't even got to be running. Like, but if whatever you can do, to give yourself a chance at the joy of like, being better to yourself, at being better to us. Let's be clear with the science. Like, let me get nerd out real quick, like on the science. So here I am, I'm drinking some tea, right? And this is a really good tea. It's called Feel Better Tea. When I made the decision to, now those listeners who are in the medical field, I hope my science right. I hope my science right. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. But when I made the decision to get this tea, the endorphins began to release in my brain. And they said that that's something that you should desire. And when I began to drink the tea, serotonin began to, if I'm thinking serotonin, I think serotonin, one of them, began to release or lower. It was one of them levels that began to like lower, where the brain chemicals that tells you a thing is desirable, and then the brain chemicals that tell you that a thing is good. So you keep on drinking. And the more and it lessens the anxiety around, I don't know what the unknown of this thing will be. So the more that we are like good to ourselves and do things that kind of keep them endorphins firing and keep that serotonin going, the more we work at it and keep it moving, whether that's like you like playing drums or you like going on walks or you like reading books or you like doing whatever that will contribute to your overall wellness. Like the more those levels begin to, the dopamine and endorphins, serotonin is what wants to low. I think dopamine and endorphins is what we want, to like fire off or whatever. And so I think like we shame one another a lot around like our bodies, and all we got to do is really like, just try to do a little bit so that like your brain chemicals can begin to like fire off. And trust me, you trust me. It's like, there's this illustration that was on social media. It's a beautiful thing. There's a circular structure that had sand in it. And on one side, it looked like two hands of a clock. On one side, it had grooves in it that looked like, grooves that would be at a field in the country. And the other side, it was just like a straight line or whatnot. Then the person dug up a hole. And they dug up a hole in one side of the circular structure and put a hole in the sand. And as this grooved edge and smooth edge begin to do their work little by little, that grooved edge pushed the sand. The smooth edge smoothed it over. The groove edge moved the sand, put more back in it. The smooth edge smoothed it over until the structure was once again whole. And I think like that's what we truly want. There is digging and breakage in our lives, our emotional health, our spiritual health, even like they said, like our sexual health. There's breakage, in our psychological health, in our communal health. There's breakage and things have been dug up and dug around, whatnot, and dug into, and that's not of our control. We're the sand. We didn't ask nobody to stick a shovel in our life. We didn't ask nobody to ruin that relationship. We didn't ask anybody, to make life hard that makes us depressed or where, we're drinking more than we need to drink. We're coping in ways we don't need to cope. We're eating more than we need to eat. We're not sleeping. We're not just doing the little small things to take care of ourselves. The little we do, the more we like just get back and give ourselves a chance, the more things smooth out.
So it's your responsibility though, to make sure you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
It is your responsibility.
It is. I ain't gonna lie. I feel a weird weight about that, though. Cause like the only
Whose
reason
responsibility is
it
to
is
take
our
care of you?
It is our responsibility, but like
We're gonna close soon, but yeah.
it's our responsibility. But I just want, this is like, I feel like for us, the reverend part, it's like, it's our responsibility to be better Christians. But the fact is, sometimes, we don't do what we know we should do.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I oftentimes think about when people, hear that. Like when I used to train people, like I want to be careful how, like, this is my own personal thing. I'm not even saying you're doing this. This is my personal thing. When I hear it, is I always want to be mindful of how people are relating to their responsibility. Because a lot of people have felt like that's been like weaponized, and we don't even do that. We're not even doing that. We don't do that because who we are. We care about people. But I do think, it's your responsibility.
Though, so when I say that, so now as we're getting ready to close, I think that every month there's an awareness of something.
Facts.
Period.
Facts.
And social media, you have Google, YouTube, University, all of this, whatever, right? So when I say it's our responsibility to take care of ourselves, there's something and somebody always making us aware, for the most part, of being better, doing better, taking care of ourselves.
Facts.
And there are many avenues now that we can care and take care of ourselves.
Yes.
So that's what I mean by responsibility.
Oh, yeah, 100. No. I get it. No, I'm just saying what like for me, that's my personal thing. Like just for me.
But I also think, we got to go, but I also think this too. I think when we say it's people's responsibility to be a better Christian, right? Or to be a believer or take care of their health. And I think and I understand to a certain extent pushback, but sometimes people just don't want to be held accountable too.
That's right.
Let's just be clear.
Let's be,
I think we have an accountability problem in society. 100%. And so if I'm holding you accountable, of your health.
Yep. You're not a bad person just because you're doing that.
And I'm not going to, if you tell me I am, I'm not going to accept you telling me that I'm a bad person.
Facts.
Because me holding you accountable for your health is me loving you.
100%.
It's me wanting to help you. It's me wanting you to be whole,
100%.
well, right?
100%.
I want your soul to prosper, but I also want you to be in good health.
Yeah.
While you're here too.
Yes, sir.
Listen.
Indeed. Bo, this has been real good.
It's been good.
This has been real good. I hope they enjoyed this conversation. This is actually one of the most authentic conversations we've had, actually.
Oh, they can get ready for plenty more.
Oh, yeah.
Coming.
Yeah, I like this. It's been cool.
Listen.
Yeah.
For all of our listeners.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself.
Please.
Peace.
Please be kind. And do what you can to be well.
Be well.
Be well. All right. We love y'all.
We out.
We out.